Good day, viewers. Welcome to Straight Talk with Obert Gutu on YouTube. As I've already indicated, my name is Obert Gutu. I am the senior and founding partner of Gutu and Chikowero, attorneys at law, based in Harare, the Republic of Zimbabwe, in Southern Africa. I'm also the former Deputy Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs in the Republic of Zimbabwe between the period 2009 to 2013. We are still on the topic of land reform in Zimbabwe, and this is phase 2 or part 2 of that series of videos on the land reform process or program in Zimbabwe. It is my personal view that land reform in Zimbabwe was inevitable. Why I say so is because the whole idea of waging the armed liberation struggle against the colonial rulers in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, was all a result of the land dispossession when the pioneer column of the British arrived in this part of the world in 1890. What they did was to have a process of systematic dispossession of the indigenous people of their land. And the whole idea then of the people resorting to an armed struggle, it was to repossess the land that had been unlawfully and violently taken away from them by the colonizers. So anyone who then thinks that there was no need to have a process of land reform would, of necessity, be trying to be ahistorical and also trying to actually demean the whole purpose and agenda of the armed liberation struggle that ultimately gave birth to Zimbabwe on the 18th of April 1980, when Zimbabwe gained their independence from British colonial rule after almost a century of colonial subjugation and colonial rule. I think what we have to agree on is that going forward, we obviously have to make sure that the process of land reform in Zimbabwe is rationalized. The Constitution of Zimbabwe does protect private property rights, and the government of Zimbabwe of late actually entered into an agreement that was in late July with the former white-collar commercial farmers, in terms of which basically the government has agreed to compensate these former white commercial farmers for the improvements that they effected on the commercial farms that were taken away from them. And this is indeed in harmony or in compliance with Section 295 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which in this part of the world is the supreme law of the land. So the idea of compensating the former white commercial farmers for the improvements that they effected on the commercial farms that were later taken away from them is a constitutional issue. I know there is a school of thought that says that they should be compensated, rather that they shouldn't be compensated. But the problem we have with that kind of scenario is that if our own constitution in Section 295 says that those kind of improvements have to be compensated, what can the government then do if it refuses to compensate them? So for as long as we have that constitutional provision, Section 295, in the supreme law of the land, the issue of compensation then is beyond debate. Compensation simply has to be done. Maybe the big question now is, where is the money going to be found to compensate the former white commercial farmers? We are talking of about 3.5 billion United States dollars. I mean, that is a lot of money. It's almost like half the annual budget of Zimbabwe, half the annual national budget of Zimbabwe. So we know that the government doesn't have the money to pay. They obviously can't afford to pay 3.5 billion US dollars to those former farmers, the white former commercial farmers. So I think there has to be a way then of trying to find a way of compensating them without crippling the services of government, so to speak. There's also a school of thought that says, why should the taxpayers pay this money to the former white commercial farmers? They're saying those people who benefited from the land reform, those people who got the farms, should actually be made to pay for those improvements. To me, that argument really also tends to have a lot of suasion. It does make a lot of sense. But then when you look at the issue of practical implementation of that argument, it will be very problematic, because it is a fact that most of these people who benefited from these commercial farms or from getting these commercial farms don't have that kind of money. And obviously, we know that the political elite, the ruling elite, is largely benefited. Some of them, they actually have access to more than one farm. But those are issues that also have to be addressed when I touch on the third part or portion of this series, when you talk about the issue of land audit and the issue of misuse and abuse of the land reform process. So for today, I think this is enough. Let me just kindly invite you to click the subscribe button on this video or after watching the video. And for you, if you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is at Gutu Obert. And you may also want to follow me on Facebook, and my official Facebook page is Obert Gutu. Thank you very much and have a good day. God bless.